It's Malaysia. I mean, what can I say? I loved it.
All right, the time has finally come. We are no longer in Malaysia. We're in a new place now, but more about that in a minute. For now, we wanted to just create a video that compiled a list of things that were either new to us about Malaysia or that we didn't expect or that caught us by surprise, so that either A, it might be helpful for future foreigners coming to the country to gain a different perspective, or B, so that we can get some insight from you local Malaysians to tell us about things that we didn't quite understand or things that caught us off guard. So yeah, as mentioned, we are in a new place now, and we've actually got like car horns and construction and cicadas and roosters and barking dogs and wind and rain all going on at the same time. So we've got a lot of noise pollution going on. So hopefully you can still hear me okay. But we're actually not too far physically from Malaysia still. So drop your best guess in the comments about where you think we are now, and we will be revealing that soon. So, all right, one last little detail to mention before we start. Everything mentioned here is unique to our experiences in Kuala Lumpur specifically, and that's because Kuala Lumpur is where we stayed our entire time in Malaysia. And I know before you start firing off the comments, there's so much more to see than Kuala Lumpur, and we definitely will be back to see all those things. We got so many good recommendations that sound so great from all of you guys in the comments of previous videos, so that just gives us even more reason to come back to Malaysia and explore all the country has to offer outside of the capital of Kuala Lumpur. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started into these things that we have compiled for you guys. Starting with mentioning some things about the city itself. Let's first talk about the storms. Okay, like if you guys saw that mosquito that just flew by my eye. All right, if you guys saw the storm video that we released, I think it was like our first video in Malaysia. We were walking home from the grocery store and just got completely trapped by the storm. And we are used to rain and, you know, thunderstorms in Georgia. I mean, nothing new, but the storms in Kuala Lumpur would happen almost daily, and they would be just crazy for us. Like, the lightning was insane, the wind was crazy. So if you haven't seen that video, go check it out to see what I mean. But that definitely took us by surprise. The good thing though is that they didn't really typically last that long. So it would either be a rain shower or a big thunderstorm daily usually, and it would clear up, and then we would have the most awesome sunsets every day. So that was another thing that took us by surprise. Being in a big city, I don't know, sunsets just aren't something that come to mind for me and for Chris, I think, when it comes to just being in a city. But
Like the beach, yes, but not a city. And these were amazing.
Yeah.
And they were nearly like 2 to 3 times a week.
yeah, we would get just these epic sunsets, and we included a few in previous videos, but with the cityscapes and the mountain line behind the cities and just all sorts of cotton candy colors in the sky, they were just phenomenal. So that took us by surprise. That was really awesome. Now, we did have to account for the storms that I just mentioned because we walked pretty much everywhere around the city, just like we did in Singapore. Kuala Lumpur is not as walkable, I guess, as Singapore, but we still managed. So there's sidewalks pretty much everywhere. But in terms of traffic rules and stuff like that, they seem to be a little bit more lax with those types of things. Like, so for example, like jaywalking didn't seem to be as big of a deal, but you'd have to be super careful because even at the crosswalks, we experienced a few times like when the pedestrians would have the right of way to be walking across the street while the cars were stopped. Motorbikes would just like run the red lights all the time. And so it was kind of freaky because I think one time we were like going to walk out and this motorbike just like came through. So you have to be careful about that type of stuff. But we managed to walk everywhere. It's a pretty big city, and so we did get quite tired sometimes, but that's how we got some of our exercise in at least. All right, so that's just a little about the weather and about the walkability of the city. The traffic a little bit, which we didn't really encounter traffic that much because we weren't in cars or taxis very often. But if you do take a taxi, then we'd recommend Grab. The couple times that we did need one, it was extremely efficient and practical and affordable. So definitely use Grab as an option if you're going to be needing car rides places. But with all that in mind, that leads to the next thing, which is pollution. So while we were there, the air quality index rated the pollution, I think, moderate in terms of smog and stuff in the city. And it did look quite hazy a lot of the time. So we didn't really see many clear blue skies. It would look kind of like gray skies a lot of the times, or there would be like a kind of just haze over the cityscape when you'd be looking out. And actually, I think that was partially due to, we saw some news that during our time in Malaysia that there was burning that was going on in Indonesia, where the wind was blowing in the direction of Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur specifically, and some other cities, and it was affecting the air quality there. So that could have been one of the major contributions of the smog and the haze while we were there. I'm not sure if that's like a year-round thing or if it eases up during certain parts of the year. So if you're a local, let us know about that. So kind of connected to the haze that I was talking about, this is something that we still aren't sure what this was, but oftentimes, so we stayed in a couple of different apartments during our stay in Malaysia, and we would be looking out and we would see like smoke coming up from the ground, like as if somebody was burning something. And at first that's what we thought that it was, but then we'd realize, this seems to be like in a building parking lot, or like, in just like a small little area. It seems unlikely that there would be burning going on. And then finally we saw that there were actually people in, it looked like suits with kind of like these blower devices that were blowing smoke. And the only thing that we can think of that it could be, and we could be completely wrong, is that we were thinking maybe it was like stuff to get rid of mosquitoes in the area, because we've heard of, I think, like smoke bombing mosquitoes or something, to treat like the land or a facility. So let us know. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? I think that we have some footage that maybe we can overlay here. But if you guys know what we are talking about, then let us know in the comments what the heck that is, because the mosquito bomb thing is our best guess.
Yeah, we saw it once in Singapore.
Oh yeah, true. So we did see it once in Singapore too, and the first time we saw that, we were like, what is that? And then once we got to Malaysia, we saw it several times, and so it seems whatever it is pretty common.
Yeah, we saw it at least like 5 times out of our window off in the distance.
Yeah. Speaking of seeing stuff out in our window off in the distance, okay, the construction in KL is insane. There is so much going on. I mean, when we would be looking out, the amount of cranes that we would see on top of buildings was just, we've never seen that much construction going on at one time before. So it was just crazy. I think the city is still having lots of development going on, and maybe renovations to buildings. And the one, is it called PNB, which is going to be the tallest building in KL, was very close to our apartment. So we were seeing construction of that the entire time that we were in KL. So yeah, lots of construction going on. But the noise wasn't really ever an issue for us, I don't think. Speaking of noise and construction, if you guys can hear that, that's kind of ironic.
Because I get filmed last, everything's gonna look different because it got dark on us. The one thing that I wanted to mention from our experience living at the Robertson is that we were there for 3 months, and we moved apartments several times. So we were actually down on lower floors at one point, like say 12, and we went as high as I think about 27, 30. And the higher we went, the less noise pollution we got. So it was a lot better for like sleep and for just not having to deal with the noise. So the higher up we go, the better.
So most of you already know that Kuala Lumpur is a shopping hotspot. Like, there are just more malls than I've ever seen, like in my life, all within a small radius of each other. So we're not huge like fashionista shopping people or whatever, so we didn't do a ton of shopping. But what we did do, I mean, it was just like sensory overload in terms of all the options. So I'm talking about in ranges from very cheap to very expensive stuff. I mean, and quality differs quite a bit in terms of that range, but from clothes to electronics to jewelry to just whatever, you name it, you can get it in KL. They have a mall that I did want to point out, Plaza Loyot, which we had to go to a couple of times to get a couple of electronic things. But if you are in need of any type of tech gear or any electronics in KL, then check this mall out, because it is several stories high and it's absolutely nothing but tech. So they've got everything from your big name brands like Samsung and Sony and Asus, all the way up to like brands that you've never heard of that are just like, generic or secondhand or whatever, it's just like a huge range of stuff. So definitely check that out if you need any type of tech gear while in KL. Now, I said that we could find everything, and we actually ultimately were able to, but I don't know if you guys watched our video where we did this kind of thing for Singapore, saying things that surprised us. But one of the things was that in Singapore we couldn't find any unscented products. So we don't like to use artificial fragrances personally. So we like to get things like unscented soap and unscented laundry detergent and things of that nature. And we had a similar problem in KL as well when we were looking at like at the grocery store or just at different areas that sold skincare stuff. But then we did ultimately find what we were looking for at, was it Watson's or Guardian?
Watson's.
At Watson's in Berjaya Times Square. And we did have to pay a premium for it, but we did find it, so that was a good thing.
So in terms of unscented products, this is probably like the second time we've mentioned not wanting to use scented products, and so we wanted to go ahead and just tell you the reason for that, and then maybe you can give us some insight on how this works in Malaysia. Because back in the US, scented products or products that have fragrances in them, they're not regulated in terms of what types of chemicals can be in the fragrance. And so what we did for ourselves a long time ago is we started getting rid of all fragrances and all types of products. So we typically always go for unscented products because of the fact that companies, we don't necessarily trust them in terms of what they're putting into the products. Since it's not regulated, it's pretty much fair game. So they can put anything they want in there regardless of what it does for our health.
Our general idea is the less chemicals or the less artificial ingredients, whether it's something that we're eating or that we're applying on our bodies, the less of that, the better.
So let us know, like, how does that work in Malaysia? Is there some type of governmental agency that monitors, like, say, types of products like perfumes and things, cosmetics? And I just remembered that there was actually one other thing, which Chris, I'm sure you'll remember this, but in addition to having trouble finding unscented products, in GNC, you guys know, like the supplement and vitamin store, we get a couple of things from there, like some protein supplements and amino acids and stuff. And so they have like ones or supplements that aren't artificially derived in terms of flavors and sweeteners and colors and stuff. And so that's what we usually get. But when we went to the GNC that we could find in KL, again, that was in Berjaya, I believe, and they didn't have the natural products or the things that didn't have the artificial things in it. And we were talking to the cashier at the GNC, and he was telling us that it just wasn't in demand. And we thought maybe, in this particular location, but he was like, no, you're not going to be able to find it anywhere in Malaysia. So that was interesting and new to us. We even asked if he could order and have it come to the store since we'd be there for a while, and he said no. So if you guys take any supplements and you're local to KL, are you aware of another place that maybe we could get non-artificially sweetened, flavored, colored supplements next time we're back? That would be good, because it's hard to travel with those things, especially if you buy them in bulk. So we like to usually just get them at the location that we're in. Now, staying on the same thread of shopping, but moving in a little bit different direction. So everywhere that we went, well, I'm saying everywhere, but most places that had plastic bags would actually charge you, and the charge was usually 20 Malaysia cent. So that would be the equivalent of 5 cents US per bag. And we thought that that was just really good because it disincentivizes people from using the plastic bags and incentivizes them to bring their own reusable shopping bags.
So we thought that that was pretty cool. Is that a new initiative for you guys that are local to Malaysia, or has that been going on for a while?
And actually in the US, we're already pretty used to this because the main place we shop for groceries is a place called Aldi, and they don't have plastic bags. So we would always have to bring our own kind of cloth bags when we go to the grocery store in the US.
And we also actually heard that nowhere in KL was supposed to use plastic straws. And we did go to, was it only at the one mamak that we went to that served plastic straws regularly?
Yeah, the other ones we got, the metal or paper.
Yeah, everywhere else. So we did encounter plastic straws sometimes, and I think some of you guys called it out in the video that we made on the mamak food. But in other places, we would always get paper straws or metal straws. So give us some insight about that too. These environmental initiatives seem really good. Just curious how seriously the people in KL take it and how well it's enforced.
So we really like to see that kind of initiative to kind of reduce the plastic, the use of plastic in KL. So let us know in the comments what other kind of things KL's doing, or Malaysia in general, to like keep things clean and keep the environment pristine.
Now, another thing that we noticed, mostly when shopping, but actually mainly just walking around the city anywhere, is that there are uniformed security guards pretty much in every single place we went. I don't know what that was. All right, so I said, if that didn't get picked up, there are uniformed security guards in every place that we would go. So whether that was at stores in the mall or at hotels, at apartment buildings, in parking lots, they were just absolutely everywhere. And I think that that is the first time that we have encountered that. Like before Malaysia, we were in Singapore, and before that we were in Bali, Indonesia, and there were security guards around in those places too. But in Kuala Lumpur, they were just absolutely everywhere, and they were all, I would say most of the time they were dressed like kind of the same too, in like white and red and black uniforms. So that was new to us because back home in Georgia, I'm trying to think about places that have security guards. Like it would only be the places that you would expect. Like I don't even know that. I don't even think that they're at banks, really, right? Do you?
Yeah, I don't remember.
At least
we don't
noticeably.
really see that many security guards.
Yeah, so like maybe they would be on patrol places, but they wouldn't really be seen. But in KL, they are very seen. So yeah, that was just something that was new to us and that we didn't really expect or hear about. Don't really have any type of opinion on it. It's probably a good thing to help prevent any type of crime and stuff. But is that, do you guys know if it's for a reason or if it's just because it's so populated with so many people? Let us know if there's anything behind that in the comments.
Speaking of security, there is one story that I need to tell that kind of shocked me or freaked me out. We were actually in Berjaya, and for some reason, every time we go to the grocery store, it's a long walk, so I always have to hit the bathroom right when we get there. And to go by the bathroom, I passed by this jewelry store. And so if you're from KL, you might know where I'm about to go with this. But anyways, I saw a guy dressed in plain clothes with a huge shotgun holstered over his shoulder. And I was like, what the heck? Because the mall is so populated, and this just looked like a regular guy with a shotgun, just right in the mall. So the only thing I could think was like, he was right next to the jewelry store, but he was standing outside of it. So as time went on, I passed by there. Every time we went to the grocery store, I'd be hitting the bathroom, and I'll see this guy now in the back. And so I knew, okay, he must be a security guy, you know, protecting the jewelry store. But that made me think, like, what are the gun laws in Malaysia to begin with? And actually, one of the grabs that we took, there was a young guy in there, and we told him the same thing, and he kind of gave us a little bit of insight on the gun laws. He talked about something where bullets were accounted for, but let us know in the comments if you're familiar with the gun laws in Malaysia. If you know what they are, let us know, and then if you have an opinion on them in terms of like what you think, let us know too.
Hot topic.
Yeah, hot topic. But moral of the story is, if you're going to KL, and specifically if you're near a jewelry store, don't be surprised to see a guy strapped to deter people from coming in there and trying to rob them. To deter people from coming in and trying to rob the place.
So building off of what I was just saying about how populated the city is and how many people are there, that was heavily demonstrated at night. Like, there was an extremely late night eating culture, which was pretty cool. So you guys, if you didn't see, we did like a video on Jelana Lore, so that was like a type of thing where there's tons of people out eating and going through the market late at night. But from the feedback that we got from most of you guys is that is kind of more of a touristy place. But even not at touristy places, like at the Mamak that we would go to a lot, or any kind of food stalls or restaurants on the side of the road, it was just busy late into the night, people out eating and drinking and hanging out. Very similar to what we saw in Singapore, actually, except for a lot more, because there's so many more people. But given this, like, the food is just, you can get absolutely anything. There are so many options. There are Chinese and Indian and Malay, of course, and Italian and Western and European, Mediterranean. I mean, absolutely anything you can think of, and you're not even going to have to search for it. Like, all food options that you can think of are always going to be near you. Now, whether they're going to be like the best out of, you know, whatever type of food genre you're looking into, I don't know, but they are everywhere. And we had really good food experiences everywhere we went. Like, I think during our entire time that we didn't ever go somewhere and think like, we didn't like it. Like, regardless of what type of food it was, what type of cuisine, we always had a really good food experience. So A+ for good food in Kuala Lumpur. Now, something else that was new to us in regards to food was eating with only a fork and a spoon. And if you guys saw our video that we did on the Mamak food that we had, that is, I think, definitely where we first encountered it, because that was the first place that we ate right when we arrived on our first night in KL. But yeah, so if you guys didn't see that, basically at most places that we would go to eat, unless you ordered a steak, or maybe unless it was a Western restaurant, rather than a fork and knife, which is what you're usually given in Western restaurants, even if you don't have any meat to cut, you're given instead in KL, and I assume that this is the case for Malaysia, but correct me if I'm wrong, as a whole, that you're given a fork and a spoon. And from the Mamak video, a lot of you locals let us know that it was basically a more efficient way for scooping the two, and we got really used to eating that way. And it's kind of funny that now in the new place where we are, another hint, I guess, is that that's not the custom for how the silverware is usually presented when you're eating. And it's funny because we're finding ourselves like looking for a fork and spoon at the same time to eat, and it's usually not given to us. So it's kind of funny, and we actually kind of came to that way of eating with the fork and spoon rather than fork and knife. Pretty efficient. Now, aside from the food, Malaysia has an insane tropical fruit selection. We had like the best fruits of our lives while we were in Malaysia. In the video that we did on going to the grocery store, we talked to an employee for a long time who was showing us just the wide array of both Malaysia, or fruits that were native to Malaysia, as well as imported fruits that they had in Hero Market. And over our time, we tried Musang King durian, we tried rambutan and mangosteen, and actually we had never even had passion fruit before. We tried that, and then just like, what else? I know that there was more tropical fruits that like in that video we tried dukong, I think is how you pronounce it.
Don't forget about jackfruit.
Oh yeah, so much jackfruit. So that is where like we tried all the fruits I just named for the first time, and I think that there's even more because we were right next to a fruit market and we would just try things all the time. One thing is that we did find that berries were more expensive. I assume that berries have to be imported from where we are from in Georgia. We have an abundance of berries that are grown like right in the state, so you can usually get them pretty affordably. So yeah, anytime we were craving like blueberries or strawberries, blackberries, anything like that, we'd have to be ready to pay, I guess, more of a premium for them than what we're used to back home, and also more of a premium than what you could get like the tropical fruits for, since those are more local to the region. We did, though, hear of a great place to try strawberries. Was it Genting Highlands or Cameron Highlands? Some of you guys let us know in the comments, because previously you guys have told us that there's like a strawberry field where you can go and pick your own strawberries, and that they're supposed to be like the best strawberries in the world. Let us know, because that sounds awesome, and strawberries are one of my fave fruits. Not so much for you, right?
Yeah, no, least fave.
Chris's least favorite
I'll
fruit.
eat it though. I like
That's
them.
insane, right? Because strawberries are so good. But okay.
Yeah, in KL there are so many fruits, and as a result, so many juices. One time we were at a restaurant, I think we were at the Mamak. The waiter came up and I asked him what kinds of juices they have. And he just looked dead right in my eye and said, all juices. That's it. All. And I was like, okay, I guess so.
But drinks, though, in general, were kind of funny, what I'm about to add, because we had never seen this before. To-go drinks, or drinks that you get for takeaway, are given in some places to you rather than in a to-go cup, a to-go bag. So it would be like a bag, plastic bag that was thick so that it like wouldn't like burst, and it would have like a rubber band or a ribbon attached to it so that you could hold it easily around your wrist and walk with it. And so yeah, it works. It's actually really efficient. But when we first saw it, we had never drank out of a bag before, so like I took a picture and sent it to my mom, and I was like, look at this. She's like, what is that? You know, it was like milk tea with ice, and it had a straw in it. She's like, why are you drinking out of that? But after we did it like the first time, and how often we would see everyone else getting their drinks like that, it became just like the norm to us. We didn't think twice about it when we would get drinks for takeaway. But one thing that I do have a question about in regards to that, I totally get why you would get a takeaway drink, you know, to go like in the bag, if that's what the seller is giving the drink to you in. But like we would see people drinking when they would order drinks at restaurants, like at the Mamak, for example, and they would get the takeaway version rather than like it in the glass. And that I didn't get. The only thing that I could think is that it seemed like the volume of the drinks in the bags would be more than what you get in the glasses. But I really don't know. And then I thought maybe they were getting it because they'd be leaving soon and wanted to take their drinks. But a lot of times they would just leave the bag on the table like when they left. So I can't figure that out. Let me know if like that's something that I'm missing, or if that's just like something random that has no purpose. So yeah, like wrapping up all the food and fruit and drinks, like such good selections, good quality in Malaysia, good affordable prices too most of the time. But with all the variety, like of Chinese and Indian and Malay and Western, everything that you can think of has to do with like the abundance of people and the diversity amongst the people in KL. Like it is just a melting pot place that has tons of different ethnicities and cultures and religions. So it was super cool to, you know, be part of that diversity. And in addition to all the people that actually live there or who are local to Malaysia, or more specifically even local to KL, there are also a lot of foreign workers as well as expats and tourists. I couldn't think. Lots and lots of tourists. That was actually, like, we knew that KL was a big place for tourists to go, but we were shocked by all the tourists that we saw all the time. So is that year round? Because actually when we were getting close to checking out of our Airbnb, our host told us that it was busy season. So we didn't know, you know, if there was a typical busy season in KL for tourism. So let us know if that's a thing, because if it is, then you can probably get better deals on accommodations and things if you come during the non-busy season. Now, the main language in Malaysia is Malay, and given that Indonesia was the first country that we went to, we kind of studied up on a little bit of Indonesian before we went so that we could know at least some of the common words. So we were pleasantly surprised when we got to Malaysia and realized that Malay and Indonesian are actually quite similar. They even share a lot of the same words, so that was pretty cool. And also, I think, let me know if I'm wrong, but I think if someone who speaks Malay and someone who speaks Indonesian are talking to each other, that they can you know, pretty much understand what the other is saying, even if you don't fluently speak Indonesian if you're a native Malay speaker, or vice versa. Is that true? I think I heard that is the case. But yeah, even though Malay is the main language, pretty much everybody speaks English fluently. I don't think that we ever ran into any issue with trying to speak to someone who didn't speak any English at all. Sometimes there would be more of a language barrier than others, but it was never really an issue for us.
So speaking of Malay and Indonesian, for both of these languages, the adjective comes after the noun. So like in English, if there's, say, a blue car, I'll say, hey, look at that blue car. So blue is the adjective for the noun car. But in Malay, you would swap the adjective and the noun, and you'd say the noun first, so you'd say car blue. And if you saw our Mamak video, this is one of the things that kind of tripped me up when I was trying to say nasi goreng ayam kunyit, because everything is kind of backwards. So that just means turmeric chicken fried rice. So nasi goreng ayam kunyit. Kunyit is chicken. No, kunyit is turmeric. Nasi goreng ayam. Ayam is chicken, so you say chicken turmeric, and then goreng means fried, and nasi means rice. So nasi goreng is fried rice. Swap.
And it's getting dark out, so hopefully you can still see me. But we're gonna keep going because we already tried to film this yesterday, and we got rained out, and we didn't want to film inside of our hotel room because it's boring. And so yeah, we're just gonna keep doing this, so hopefully you can still see me all right. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, it's working.
We found the light switch in this place that we thought didn't have working lights. So now I think the lighting is not going to be an issue. But it's starting to rain again, which is what ruined us yesterday because there's a tin roof. And so if it starts pouring too loud, then it's just like too much. So going to try to speak fast so that this doesn't catch us again. So I was just talking about the language. So something kind of funny is that after spending so much time in Malaysia, and even with interacting with locals who spoke fluent English, since Malay doesn't, I believe Malay, there's no plural versus singular, so everything would just be used in what we would call singular terms. But so we started kind of adopting that even in English, just from I don't know, habit, I think. So someone would ask, how long have we been in Malaysia? And we would be 3 months, not months. And we'd catch ourselves why are we doing that? But it was just pretty funny. And I think that other people do that as well here when or in Malaysia. We're not in Malaysia anymore. Other people would do that as well when they were speaking English if their native language was Malay. And continuing on with the people, I mean, in general, we just got extreme chill vibes from everybody. The entire city just seemed in terms of the people, everybody was really laid back. People weren't uptight. It was just really, I don't know, we got a relaxed attitude, which was really nice. But also, continuing on with stuff about the people, now, I said that it was a melting pot. That's also true for religion as well. So Malaysia as a whole is predominantly Muslim, and then followed by Buddhist, and then Christianity, and then Hinduism, I think. But yeah, in KL, there were just there would be mosques and Buddhist temples and Christian churches, just all within a close vicinity to each other. So that was cool to see. And also, this was the first majority Islam country that we've been in, and so we would hear the Islamic call to prayers every day over these speakers in the city. And actually, it was really beautiful. The first day that we were there, we had our window open, we could hear it, and we ended up going to the rooftop, and it was just really pleasant and calm and relaxing. But I think that it would play multiple times a day from different mosques too. So we would hear it from speakers coming in every direction, but I don't think that it was uniformly being presented. I think it might have been from different mosques. So let us know if I'm wrong about that. So there are a few other things that we learned that don't really fall into any specific category. I guess this next one I'm about to say would be maybe etiquette or manners, but we did notice that it was very common practice to use both of your hands when you are giving something to someone or receiving something from somebody. So I don't know if that's influenced by any particular religion or comes from one particular culture that influenced the rest, but that was very heavily done basically anywhere that we'd go, whether it was, getting your check at a restaurant or using your, changing cash or your card at a cashier. Always give and receive with two hands. It seems to just be a polite gesture. Now, kind of building on the giving and receiving idea, this one time we were out to eat, eating outside like at a mamak restaurant, and we saw this one woman come by who was, I'm not sure if she was homeless or if she was just generally asking for money, but she came by and was going from table to table asking for money or spare change. And we weren't sure kind of like what the, I guess, attitude towards that was in KL, because this happened like really early on in our time. But there was probably like 5 tables that she went to before ours, and we noticed that every single table actually gave her cash. And also every table after us gave cash as well. So we were surprised, like, oh wow, like everybody gave money, because maybe we would expect to see like a mix of people. Some people give, some people don't, just depending on what their attitude is towards that type of thing. So we thought maybe the general attitude was to give. But then later, like as we were going out and exploring the city more, there would be a lot of, I'm assuming these are homeless people, like that would be on the streets, and they would have like a cup. And in these scenarios, we didn't really see, I don't think we ever saw like anybody give money to these people on the street. But that was kind of like contradictory to what we saw at the restaurant. So let us know, like, in Atlanta, for example, like the major city where we're from, I guess it's just mixed. Some people give, some people don't. But it was like on the street we see like nobody giving, but at the restaurant we saw everybody. So it was just like two completely opposite ends of the spectrum. So let us know if there's some general consensus, because I know that like politics and government and law and general attitude kind of like influence that type of thing, but we are completely oblivious to what that is in KL. So let us know. All right, completely shifting gears to something that's like kind of random but totally unrelated, which is that in like hotel buildings and I guess malls and just anywhere that's multi-storied high, we noticed that anywhere that there would be a 4, like, in the number 4 or 14, 24, 34 in terms of room number or flight number, that the 4 would be missing and it would be replaced with 3A. So for example, we would go from floor 3 to 3A to 5. And then we would go from floor 13 to 13A to 15. So the 4s would be completely taken out of the like room numbers and floor numbers, for example. So I'm not sure, like I think that, is it like influenced by Chinese? I think that might be an unlucky number, the number 4 in Chinese, but I'm not positive. I think I might have just heard that before. So let us know what that's about, why 4s typically aren't included. And if there's other things that 4s wouldn't be included on either, besides like the typical like room number and floor number thing that I just mentioned. All right, so now here are just a few random things about bathrooms. All right, one is that this doesn't actually seem to be specific to Malaysia, because we've experienced it everywhere we've gone in Southeast Asia so far, but just have forgotten to bring it up previously. But there are no outlets like to plug in any electronics in the walls in the bathrooms. So like if I ever want to straighten my hair or blow dry my hair or anything like that, I'll have to do it out of the bathroom. And usually like in a hotel and in apartments, there's not like big mirrors that you would have in a bathroom. So I will take my phone and put it in selfie camera mode and like just sit that up on a table and like straighten my hair looking at myself in the phone. So is that typical like outside of, I guess like for locals, like in your homes, like would there not be outlets in the bathrooms? Because I think back in the US, like that is usually the norm. But aside from that, in public restrooms, we noticed that there would always be a combination of stalls. Like there would be stalls with toilets, and there would be stalls with the squatty potties. I don't know if there's like a better way of describing them, but basically, it has like the little platform for you to put your feet, and then the toilet, I guess, and plumbing is like in the ground, and you squat to use the restroom rather than sit on the toilet. But there would be usually, like in malls and restaurants and stuff, like stalls with toilets and stalls with squatty potties, I guess to appease everyone's preferences, because some people prefer to go one way over another. But that was the first time that we have seen them mixed like that just everywhere, because a lot of times there would be either toilets or squatty potties, but in KL we saw the mix of two like pretty much everywhere we went. And additionally, in public restrooms, something that I encountered, I think everywhere, I don't even think that I came into a public restroom that didn't have this going on, but I'm used to, or I guess we're used to having toilet paper in the stall, like on the wall. But in all the public restrooms in KL, the toilet paper would be in the common area, like on the wall next to like the sinks, like where paper towels would be. So you would get toilet paper from the common area first, and then go and use that in the stall. And so it's funny because I think like it took me like a couple times to realize that that's what was going on. And I was just wondering, like, because the certain toilets might not have bidets or something, and I was just wondering, like, how do people like clean up afterwards if there's never any toilet paper and there's no bidet? But then I realized, like, oh, like the toilet paper's on the front. I think I saw someone come in and get it first, and then I followed suit afterwards. But yeah, that was completely new to us. So tell us why that is, because we were trying to think about like what would be the reason for that, if there was some sort of like efficiency or practicality of not having the toilet paper in the stalls, but we couldn't really come up with anything. So let us know if there is some reason, or if that's just kind of random.
That's just the way it is.
So on that note, with bathrooms, I think we're going to end our shocking surprises from Malaysia video. So yeah, like we said earlier, these were just things that were new to us, or maybe that took us by surprise, or things that we learned during our time in KL. So please, if you're a local, we really want to hear from you in the comments to, let us know anything in regards to what we talked about that might be additional insight, or that might clarify some of the things we mentioned. That would be really great. Otherwise, like I said earlier, if you're a future traveler, then hopefully our perspectives and insights on these things as foreigners coming to KL or Malaysia in general may help you as well. So stay tuned, because in the next video, we will be telling you guys where we are. But again, let us know in the comments what your guess is, and we will see you in the next one.
Oh my God.
I love Malaysia. I just do. It's just part of life.
So in this new place, like if you guys saw our video in KL Forest, we were like, oh, the mosquitoes are kind of annoying here. Okay, the mosquitoes in KL Forest have nothing on the mosquitoes here. These are the biggest mosquitoes we've seen in our life, and they're pretty scary.
But we have this. You just press this button right here, and then you zap.
Malaysia. What can I say? I loved it.